Before we begin, if you love real stories that slowly pull you in, stories that feel too personal, too quiet, too honest to be fiction, hit subscribe. Because some nights change your life forever. And sometimes the most dangerous moments don't come with shouting or chaos. They come with one calm sentence. And this story started with exactly that. At 11:42 p.m., my husband looked straight at me and said 3 words that still echo in my head. Okay, invite her. That was it. No argument. No hesitación. No suspicion. Just quiet acceptance. And somehow, that scared me more than if he had screamed. Because the second he agreed, I knew there was no going back. I didn't smile. Didn't say thank you. Didn't even breathe properly. I just nodded. Small. Controlled. Careful. Because if my face moved even a little, if my lips trembled, if my eyes gave anything away, you would have seen it. The fear. The kind that crawls up your spine and whispers. You just changed everything. I had prepared for resistance. I had prepared for questions. I had even prepared for a fight. But I wasn't prepared for consent. Calm. Steady. Terrifying consent. And here's the thing no one tells you. Sometimes getting exactly what you ask for is worse than being denied. Because now it's your fault. The idea hadn't started that night. It had been growing for weeks. Quietly. Like mold in the walls. Invisible at first. Then suddenly everywhere. It began with a message. Just one. From my sister. Sent at 12:18 a.m. I remember the time because I kept reopening it like it might change. It said, I don't feel like I belong anywhere anymore. No emoji. No explanation. No sorry for texting late. Just that sentence. Heavy. Bruised. Lonely. It didn't ask for help. And somehow that made it worse. Because when someone asks for help, you can fix it. But when someone sounds like they've already given up, what do you even offer? I stared at my phone in the dark while my husband slept beside me. His breathing slow. Steady. Safe. Our room felt warm. Familiar. Predictable. Everything about my life had become predictable. Wake up. Coffee. Work. Dinner. Netflix. Bed. Repeat. Nothing wrong. Nothing broken. Just still. And that's when a thought slipped in. Soft. Dangerous. What if safe isn't enough anymore? I hated myself for thinking it. But once a thought like that appears, it doesn't leave. It lingers. It grows teeth. It starts rearranging your life without permission. My sister had always been the opposite of me. Where I built roots, she chased roads. Where I wanted calm, she wanted chaos. I married stability. She married possibilities. And lost most of them. Different cities. Different jobs. Different relationships. Always restarting. Always running. And now, she sounded tired. The kind of tired that isn't about sleep. The kind that lives in your bones. A week later, I tested the idea. Carefully. Like dipping your toe into water, might burn. We were in the kitchen. He was scrolling on his phone. I tried to sound casual. Like it didn't matter. Like I wasn't about to tilt our entire life sideways. So, I said, pouring water I didn't want. What would you think if my sister came to stay with us for a while? He didn't look up. How long is a while? My heart beat too fast. I don't know. A few weeks maybe. Until she figures things out. He shrugged. She's family. Of course. That should have relieved me. But instead, my chest tightened. Because that wasn't the real question. Not even close. 3 nights later, I stopped pretending. I told him everything. How empty her voice sounded. How she'd stopped calling friends. How she kept quitting jobs. How I was scared she might disappear one day and no one would notice. She doesn't just need a place, I said quietly. She needs us. That's when he finally looked at me. Really looked. Not distracted. Not half listening. Fully present. Are you asking me? He said slowly. Or telling me? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Because I honestly didn't know. Was I asking permission? Or had I already decided? Silence stretched between us. Thin. Fragile. Like glass about to crack. Part of me wanted him to say no. I wanted him to be the bad guy, to set the boundary, to protect us. Because if he refused, then I wouldn't be responsible. But instead, he asked one question. One simple, terrifying question. Will this change things? I swallowed. Yes. Another pause. Will it hurt us? My throat burned. I don't know. And that was the moment everything shifted. Not when she arrived. Not later. Right there. When we both chose uncertainty instead of safety. She came on a Tuesday. 2 hours early. Of course she did. She was never on time for anything. The doorbell rang at 2:13 p.m. My husband was still at work, which somehow made it worse. None of this was supposed to start without witnesses. When I opened the door, there she was. One suitcase. Messy hair. Big smile that came too fast. Like she was trying to outrun something chasing her. She hugged me hard. Too hard. The kind of hug that says don't let go of me. I smelled cold air, cheap detergent, and something else. Something restless. Like she hadn't slept in days. I missed you, she said. And I believed her. Dinner that night was strange. Not bad. Not awkward. Just too smooth. Like everyone was trying a little too hard. She laughed at all his jokes. Even the dumb ones. He listened to her stories with this soft attentiveness I hadn't seen in years. And I noticed. God, I noticed everything. How close their chairs were. How often their eyes met. How easily they clicked. Like they'd known each other forever. Like I was the one interrupting. Over the next few days, the house changed. Not dramatically. Just subtly. But subtle changes are the most dangerous. She filled every room with movement. Music playing. Drawers opening. Phone calls. Energy. Life. And my husband started coming home earlier. I noticed because I started counting. One evening I walked into the kitchen and found them standing close together, heads bent over his phone. Laughing. Soft. Private. When they saw me, they stepped apart at the exact same time. Like they'd rehearsed it. And something cold slid into my stomach. 3 days in, she asked me something while we were washing dishes. Water running. Plates clinking. Like it was nothing. Did you really mean it? She asked. Mean what? That I can stay as long as I need. I hesitated. Yeah, of course. She nodded, but didn't look relieved. Just thoughtful. Like she was calculating something. Just checking, she said. And that's when I realized something I didn't want to admit. This wasn't just about helping her anymore. Something else was forming. Something I couldn't name. Something electric. Something dangerous. And the worst part, a tiny shameful part of me, was curious to see where it would go. By the 4th day, our house didn't feel like my house anymore. Not exactly. Nothing big had changed. No furniture moved. No new decorations. No dramatic arguments. But the air felt rearranged. Like when someone opens a window in winter, and you don't notice right away, until suddenly everything's colder. That's what it felt like. Colder. Thinner. Like something invisible had slipped between us. My sister had always been loud in the best way. Not noisy. Just alive. She hummed when she brushed her teeth. Played music while cooking. Talked to herself while looking for things. Left cabinet doors half open. She filled silence without trying. And I hadn't realized how quiet my life had become until she showed up and broke it. Before she came, the house had a rhythm. Predictable. Soft. Me and my husband moving around each other like muscle memory. Now, everything had a third beat. And every time that beat landed, I felt it. The first morning it really hit me, I woke up alone. Which wasn't strange. He sometimes woke early. But when I reached across the bed, his side was already cold. Cold meant he'd been gone a while. I checked my phone. 6:12 a.m. Too early for work. I followed the smell of coffee downstairs. And that's when I saw them. Through the kitchen window. Out back. Barefoot on the patio. 2 mugs. Morning light catching her hair. They weren't touching. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were just talking. Quietly. Leaning against the railing like they'd done this 100 times before. Like it was natural. Like it was theirs. And for some reason, that hurt more than if I'd caught them flirting. Because flirting is obvious. Flirting you can fight. But comfort? Comfort is intimate. Comfort is dangerous. He laughed at something she said. Not his polite laugh. Not his "that's funny" laugh. His real one. The one that used to belong only to me. The one that crinkled his eyes. And suddenly I felt like I was watching a memory. Not a moment. Like I'd already lost something and didn't know when it happened. When I slid the door open, both of them looked up. At the same time. Same expression. Same tiny pause. Like kids caught doing something they weren't supposed to do. Except they weren't. They were just drinking coffee. Talking. Existing. So why did it feel like I'd walked into something private? Morning, he said a little too brightly. Hey, she added, smiling. I forced one back. Couldn't sleep? She shrugged. Jet lag of life, I guess. He chuckled at that. Jet lag of life. I repeated it in my head, trying to figure out why it bothered me. Maybe because she said it like he'd understand. Like they shared a language now. The rest of the day felt off. Like when you're sick but not sick enough to stay home. Just uncomfortable. Aware of everything. Hyper-aware. The way their conversations overlapped. The way he asked her follow-up questions. The way she remembered small details he mentioned. Things I'd forgotten. Or maybe never noticed. I started doing something embarrassing. Something I'd never done in my marriage. I started observing. Not living. Not participating. Observing. Like an outsider studying my own life. Counting how long they talked. Noticing who texted who. Tracking where they stood in rooms. It felt pathetic. Small. But I couldn't stop. Because once suspicion plants itself, everything becomes evidence. Even nothing. That afternoon, I found them cooking together. Not unusual. Except it kind of was. My husband hated cooking. Always had. But there he was, sleeves rolled up, chopping vegetables like he'd done it forever. She stood beside him, guiding his hands. No, like this, she said, laughing. You're murdering the onion. I'm trying, he said. It's slippery. Their shoulders bumped. They didn't move away. And something hot flickered in my chest. Jealousy. Sharp. Immediate. Ugly. But beneath it, something else. Something worse. Curiosity. I hated that part. The curiosity. Because jealousy is normal. Jealousy means you care. But curiosity? Curiosity meant a part of me was watching this unfold like a story. Like I wanted to see what happened next. Like I was leaning toward the fire instead of away from it. And what kind of wife does that? That night, while brushing my teeth, she leaned against the bathroom doorframe. Casual. Too casual. He really loves you, you know, she said. I spit toothpaste foam into the sink. What? The way he looks at you, she continued. Like you're the only solid thing in the room. My stomach tightened. That's sweet of you to say. She tilted her head. But do you ever worry? About what? That you're wasting it. The words hit harder than they should have. Wasting what? That kind of love. Most people never get it. And you two just live like roommates sometimes. I turned off the faucet slowly. Excuse me. She shrugged. Not judging. Just observing. Observing. That word again. Like we were all scientists studying the same experiment. Like none of us were actually inside it. That night I couldn't sleep. Her words kept looping. Roommates. Wasting it. Do you ever worry? I stared at the ceiling and wondered when we'd stop touching randomly. When we'd stop kissing for no reason. When goodnight had replaced come here. Had we gotten boring? Or just comfortable? And was there even a difference? The next evening, something small happened. So small it shouldn't matter. But it did. We were watching TV. All three of us. She sat between us. At first, it felt harmless. Until I noticed something strange. They kept reacting to things at the same time. Laughing together. Making the same comments. Their knees almost touching. While I sat on the other side. Feeling like the guest. In my own house. On my own couch. At one point, she reached for the popcorn bowl. So did he. Their hands brushed. They froze. Just for a second. Then she pulled back too fast. And he cleared his throat. No one said anything. But the silence that followed? Thick, heavy, loud, like a dropped plate. And that's when it hit me. We weren't imagining this anymore. Something was happening. Not physical. Not yet. But emotional. And sometimes, that's worse. Later that night, after she went upstairs, I finally asked him. Quietly. Carefully. Are you okay with her being here? He didn't answer right away, which scared me more than anything. He just stared at the floor. Then said, I think you invited her for a reason. That's not what I asked. He looked at me. Really looked. I trust you, he said. But I don't know what game we're playing. Game. The word made my chest ache. Because that's exactly what it felt like. Like we'd all stepped onto a chessboard without knowing the rules. And the worst part? I still hadn't told him the full truth. The ugliest truth. The one I didn't even want to admit to myself. That part of me didn't want this to stop. Because the house hadn't felt this alive in years. Because something electric hummed in the air. Because routine had cracked open. Because something unpredictable was happening. And unpredictability is addictive. Even when it destroys you. Sunday evening, she offered to cook dinner. Wine opened. Music playing. The kitchen warm and loud and alive. For a moment, it felt perfect. Like the three of us were just family. Like I'd imagined it would be. Safe. Easy. Normal. And maybe that's what scared me most. How easy it felt. How natural they looked together. How simple it would be for lines to blur. After dessert, she stretched. I'm going to shower, she said, grabbing one of my robes. The hallway filled with the sound of running water. Then silence. Just me and him. Alone. Finally. He exhaled slowly. This is getting complicated, he said. Yes, I whispered. It is. He looked at me like he was waiting. Like the next sentence mattered more than anything. Do you want me to ask her to leave? My heart slammed. This was it. The exit. The escape hatch. The moment I could fix everything. All I had to do was say yes. Just one word. Yes. And she'd be gone. And life would go back to normal. Safe. Predictable. Quiet. But instead, I heard myself say, no. And the second it left my mouth, I knew. I wasn't afraid of losing him. Not exactly. I was afraid of what would happen next. And some reckless, hidden part of me needed to find out.